Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and in this video, let's talk about a fun one. We have Sparkle, a new Harmony Quantum character, 5-star limited, that's coming out in the second half of version 2.0. Harmony characters, for those of you who have no idea, are really super meta in Honkai Star Rail. We just had one out recently, Runmei, and Sparkle I think is pretty solid as well. For those of you who have no idea what she does, just think of her as something like Bronya. She is able to push your teammates up. Not like Bronya all the way, she pushes it half, 50%. She also buffs based on crit damage, but more and more importantly, she gives a lot of skill points to the team. This is like in sharp contrast to Bronya, who really saps a lot of skill points because you just keep needing to spend so much skill points with this particular unit, Bronya, as well. So that is just a quick narration. For simplicity's sake, I think you kind of already know. Basically, what makes teams around Sparkle is she benefits anyone who drinks a lot of skill points. So think the likes of a character, for example, like Imbibitor Lune. Think the likes of, even to some extent, Jingyuan, who wants to get the use his E so he can get his max lightning lord stacks as fast as he can. You can think of it like Zealer, who is also generally quite hungry in terms of the skill points that she uses, especially if she kills targets. She likes to keep using her E non-stop. Characters like Qingque also uses her E a lot, especially if you are having her maybe not with higher Eidolons, maybe at base E0. Definitely is some team compositions that we're going to see too. Of course, a lot of other characters also are playable with Sparkle, and more importantly, she's a very good character for future units that are coming out that drinks skill points too. If any of you who want to hitch that risk, we don't really have like too many other skill point positive buffers in the game. The ones that come to mind, for example, is Hanya, who is one of the skill point buffers in the game. We have Tingyun, who is generally a little bit positive, but still, in terms of like talking about net positive or net negative, these three come to mind: Runmei, Hanya, and Tingyun as the other three options. But out of all of them, the only one that pushes turn advance is a character like Sparkle. So that is the main gist. But now let's jump in with a very simple Imbibitor Lune team. Probably most Imbibitor Lune mains are looking for this day for a really long time. I want to start off with, of course, the most popular ones, and we'll talk about many. Even if you don't have Imbibitor Lune, just bear with me. I think you'll find it quite interesting because the concepts here really is for any skill point hungry DPS that you will see. So of course, we have here Imbibitor Lune in the first slot, but you can really think of this as, for example, like, let's just slot in, for example, Zealer here, or maybe even another skill point hungry DPS, like let's say Jingyuan is over here also. We can have one of these two here. The concept is she is supplying a lot of crit damage buffing, she's supplying a lot of action advance, a lot of skill points given so that the main DPS can do their thing. Exactly what you expect from a Harmony character, but that surplus skill points is so massive because he can just use his max stacks. Imbibitor Lune can just use his like max set enhance all the time. Very strong. In the pivot category, what I would say like pivot is a double Harmony kind of roster. Previously, it was impossible to run a double Harmony character with Imbibitor Lune. For example, if you wanted to run like Bronya or Yukong, who are actually really very strong for him because Imbibitor Lune wants to move up much quicker. He wants to get the imaginary damage bonus that Yukong gives and the crit rate crit damage that Yukong gives. For those of you who have no idea, E6 Yukong is very strong, but drinks a lot of skill points, especially if you can't use her right. Previously, not possible with the Harmony roster that we have. With Sparkle now, these two characters in the game, Bronya, Yukong, are now able to be played with characters like Imbibitor Lune, or you can also play them, of course, with other hyper carry characters like Jingyuan, Zealer, etc. But I'm just making a point that now Sparkle opens up these two Harmony characters too. Tingyun is also still accessible, so you can have like a double Harmony to buff up your main DPS. This is one example that you can go. Utility slot, really, you can go with almost any sustain, but I think out of all of them, Ho-Ho probably works the best, especially since, of course, Ho-Ho gives energy to the entire team, which Sparkle likes. Imbibitor Lune likes himself, and your Harmony in the third slot also likes. And that is probably one of the angles I will go for Imbibitor Lune team in version 2.0, second half and beyond. The next up, this is where I think it gets really fun. One other thing about Sparkle that we didn't mention at the beginning of the video is that Sparkle also gives bonuses to Quantum characters in the same team, up to 3 of course. So you can play like a triple Quantum and get the max value, and this is what I want to talk about. Previously in the game, we have no like other character in the game that's Quantum. I think this was the last. She was the last element to come out out of all of them, which means characters, of course, like Zealer, Tingche, Xue all benefit from it, and that is probably like in this category here, the pivots. So if you are looking to buff maybe a Zealer, a Tingche, or a Xue, it's very, very strong. Why do I say that is you have access to this light cone here. This is a planetary rendezvous, so you slap it on, for example, Sparkle here to buff the same type damage bonus of your whole entire team for the quantum damage bonus. You can also slap in a planetary rendezvous, so you buff like even more same type damage and a little bit of energy restoration for herself, but giving a lot of damage bonus to your other DPSs. Think of it like the more same type characters that you have in the team, the much better damage bonuses for the same element mode, because this is practically, if you are playing mono quantum, you're practically running a free damage boost light cone and relic for the entire team, which is very, very useful, I think. For the synergy slot, I think that you can run a character, for example, like Silverwolf here, or if you don't have Silverwolf because maybe she's a bit expensive to run, you could always choose to run like a double 4-star DPS, for example, like Xue and Tingche in the pivot slot. This is definitely possible now since Sparkle gives so much skill points to funnel a lot into Tingche. Now, like, skill points isn't even an issue anymore. It's whether you have the resources to have so many characters built nowadays. But yeah, that's one angle you can think of doing it, depending on whether you have like Silverwolf or not. Silverwolf is also very strong with Sparkle since you are very, very incentivized to run quantum-based teams. You have weakness dropping, you have resistance shredding of the enemies. If you run, for example, the quantum set, you have also defense ignore, you have damage buffing from Sparkle, you have damage buffing from so many other sources here, crit damage buffing, ridiculous like skill points, list goes on and on, so good. And of course, last but not least, we have two options for you. One is a free-to-play Lynx as an option. The other, of course, is a slightly more expensive limited 5-star like Fucc, but pick your poison, whatever it's worth, or pick your antidote rather, since they are healers and defensive units. But yeah, this is my recommendation for a mono quantum team for Sparkle. Up to here, I think it's pretty standard. Most of us, like long-term players, we already kind of guess. What I want to value add is something fun, and that is a hyper carry team that I think not many people will be talking about, and let me share with you my concepts and what I think will be very interesting for the future. So this is the first time that we are having another unit in the game that pushes up your teammate by a percentage action advance. We all know that Bronya pushes 100%, but have you ever wondered why did they not make Sparkle push 100% as well? If you think about it, if you have two characters that push 100%, you could theoretically create a loop where you funnel Sparkle into Bronya, Bronya into Sparkle, Sparkle into Bronya, and at the same time you drink up the energy from each of them. As long as your Sparkle has 100% uptime in your energy, you will basically have 100% burst cost for these two characters, because let's put it a turn order. Bronya uses skill, Sparkle uses skill, assuming that it was both of them were 100%. Then back to Bronya, back to Sparkle, back to Bronya. Now Bronya has max burst, back to Sparkle. Sparkle now has max burst. Sparkle uses a burst, all the skill points are back, and it just loops around here and there. And if you wanted to like maybe get some skill points aside, you can use like Ranmei's light cone, Bronya's light cone, and whatever not. It creates this like loop which is very, very broken. Now, of course, they brought it down to 50%, but they forgot one thing, and that is this light cone called Dance in the game. At Super Imposition 1 is a 16% action advance for the whole team when your unit uses their ultimate. So she's 50%, she's 100, this is like 16. If you slap on both of them, that's like 16% here, 16% here. Still not as OP because you don't get an infinite loop, but imagine if you funnel this into a DPS character. Let's just use, for example, a placeholder here, like a character who maybe doesn't really care too much about energy restoration, wants a lot of turns. You have Bronya pushing 100%, you have Sparkle pushing 50%. When Bronya outs, you have Dance, buffing your main DPS again. When Sparkle outs, you buff your main DPS again. She funnels the skill points that Bronya desperately needs to create this loop, because the real downside of Bronya is she doesn't have enough skill point generation. Sparkle complements her perfectly well, and both of them complement each other by scaling with crit damage, which they both buff to. You can even use, for example, the crit damage 2-piece set bonus as well, and just like keep buffing the broken kill set and just keep like buffing your whole team with crit damage. This DPS character is going to be swimming in joy, just simply moving so fast. You can even run like probably no speed on them. Of course, last slot that I'm thinking of is running either if the meta tends towards like not enough damage being taken, you could slap on a third Harmony character. So you have a freaking triple dance. Make sure you don't superimpose your dance right now. So you have like triple dance. Bronya 100% push, Sparkle feeding the skill points to every single unit in the team. She has a relatively low burst cost as well, so it's quite easy to keep her uptime. At the same time each of these 3 characters press their burst or ultimate ability, you push the entire team by 16% if you have 1 copy of each. If you have everything at S5, that's a 24 here, 24 here, 24 here. That's like a 72% push for your whole entire team. Very ridiculously strong. Your character, Akirion, who knows what else other unit that's coming out in the future, might be doing tons of action in advance. Ridiculous, I think. And if you aren't able to like sustain, you can just like slot in like basically any other sustain unit, and pretty much you can still run with this insane ridiculous team. Bronya is considered like free. I would consider her as a free unit because technically you can get her after you get 300 pulls, and this is possibly like my comp that I want to test out, especially with the new upcoming character in version 2.1 and beyond. This is probably, in my opinion, one of the best hyper carry teams moving forward. So make sure you just save these dance like cones. At this point, probably, if you are watching this video, I try to like give as much help as I can to as many people as I can. If you're a new player just joining the game, you have no idea, so many 5-star characters, I have a bit of advice for you and some tips as well. This is what I want to cover in this free play section. Free unit, Ting Xue. We all have her, especially after you progress a little bit in the game. She's a free character. Try to clear like the Memory of Chaos a little bit, like the earlier few floors, and you'll get her. Slot her in the synergy slot. She can be a very strong DPS, skills very well with Eidolons all the way E6. She's one of the most, like, the community's favorite 4-star DPS amongst many others, in my opinion. Very, very strong. Other than, of course, like Herta to some extent is also now getting more and more popular. But Ting Xue is probably the most favorite of everyone in terms of a 4-star DPS option. Very strong. Sparkle completely helps her totally in terms of skill points, crit damage, quantum buffing. And if you just slot in, for example, like Lynx here, you now have triple quantum, so you're able to get the maximum damage bonus that Sparkle gives Ting Xue. And these 2 units are absolutely free. They're basically wanting you to play this unit if you're a free-to-play player and have no other characters. So efficient that your last slot here really is like super flexible. You need quantum, slap in some unit, but most of the time probably maybe you're missing a bit of single target damage because Ting Xue is quite AoE in a sense. You can slot in, for example, a character like Dan Heng, the base Win Dan Heng, since he's a character that everyone has. But if you have any other Han unit, you can just like slot them in. You'll think you'll find a lot more value, or of course the other characters that we have talked about as well. Now, the last but not least, of course, the question remains is who is then the better investment? Sparkle? Or if you already have Runmei, should you actually break the bank and go for Sparkle? Is it long-term wise? I'm going to be talking about that in my next video. You can click it here if it's ready on the channel already. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you appreciate such content, check out our other content on the channel. Like, subscribe, and see you in the next video.